We've got Kled slotting in for top lane, Xerath is making an appearance for mid lane, and Volibear continues to absolutely dominate in the jungle. So let's break everything down and provide you guys with 3 of the best champs for every single role in 25.18. And let's be honest, picking the best champions is fun, but is that really enough on its own? I don't know about you, but logging in Volibear just because he's OP doesn't really help if you're lacking knowledge on how to clear your jungle. However, you can begin flying through your clears at optimal speeds by using our extensive catalog of clear courses that are going to teach you everything you need to know, which will have you speedrunning any game below Diamond in no time. And that's just for jungle. Your mid lane solo carry Twitch pick becomes actually unstoppable when you know all the essentials of mid, like how to win lane, when to roam, how to properly play the later game, and much more, as our top 10 challenger player Strumpus has worked tirelessly on this course to have you guys climbing in no time. Our solo carry list gets you the right champions, SkillCapped gets you the right skills, and we're so confident it works, if you don't climb 5 divisions while actively using the platform, you literally don't pay a single cent. So why hold yourself back this season and finally get the rank you deserve? And with that being said, let's get into it. So ever since Kled's mini rework from a few patches back, he's been steadily climbing in priority as players figure out the most optimal way to play him. And now that he has been optimized quite well, the champ is incredibly strong. The key optimization that Kled players have discovered is taking Grasp in place of Conqueror for his Keystone rune. The changes that Riot issued to Kled gave him health scaling, so the synergy that Kled has with Grasp is now amazing. Kled's meta build also involves stacking a bunch of health, so in turn you deal more damage with Grasp since the rune scales off of health. The difference in win rate of Grasp Kled compared to Conqueror Kled is actually pretty insane, with Grasp players winning 54% of the time while Conqueror players are down at 51%. So if all Kled players ran Grasp, then his stat line would be even more insane than it already is. In terms of meta matchups for Kled right now, he plays very well into Aatrox, winning up over 53% of the time against him, which is great because Aatrox is one of the most contested top laners for solo queue. Fiora is always going to be a more tricky matchup to navigate with Kled, so unless you're very familiar with the lane, then banning out Fiora is a good idea. The thing about Fiora into Kled is that if Kled lands his Q, Fiora can easily time up her W to negate the pull from Kled's Q, and then potentially even stun you up as well, so you don't have too many windows of opportunity in the matchup. The build working the best on Kled right now consists of a Titanic Hydra Rush into Hullbreaker 2nd and Overlord's Bloodmail 3rd. When Kled first got his rework, this was the build we were adamant was the best for Kled. However, not a lot of players were running it, so it's nice to see the build now becoming his most popular setup. And then for the complete rune page on Kled, you should be taking Grasp with Demolish, Second Wind, and Overgrowth, followed by Alacrity and Last Stand for secondaries. Since receiving those bug fix changes in 25.16, one of the most underrated and powerful top lane champions has been Singed. You very rarely see these kind of stat lines with a champion, but Singed currently performs very well in every single elo bracket. There's usually some sort of disparity between low and high elo, but Singed is tearing up solo queue regardless of the rank he's played in. Ever since he got the change a while back to where his Q now executes minions, farming up and laning with Singed is so much easier. Singed is a champ who all he needs is 2 items to really come online, so if you can farm efficiently and get to your Liandry's with Rylai's core, then you can take over games. How you're going to find the most success on Singed in the mid to late game is by pushing out side waves, forcing the enemy to go catch that wave, and then flanking towards mid with a numbers advantage. Singed flanks are so deadly when he has Ghost available, as the movement speed combined with the slow from his W makes it super hard for enemies to escape him. In regards to Singed meta matchups, there aren't too many champions he's currently struggling against, but Kayle is one of them. It's mainly just champions who can play at range who Singed is going to have a harder time against, as Teemo, Vayne, and Urgot are a few other hard matchups, but into most melee top laners, Singed is going to have a great time. One of the best pure carry champions in the entire game right now, let alone for top lane, is Quinn. We just saw the Profane Hydra buffs come through last patch, and those changes have propelled Quinn into OP territory. When it comes down to being able to acquire a lead and then snowball the game out of control, few top lane champs have as much potential as Quinn does. Right from level 1 in lane, you can be aggressive in melee matchups as you take your E, and if the enemy walks up for CS, then you get a super easy chunk out with no counterplay and gain the health advantage on the first wave. If the enemy is too cocky, then you can even straight up solo kill them at level 1 if they do not respect you. Even if you just use Quinn as a counter pick, then she's well worth having as a champ you can pull out right now, as some of her matchup stat lines are just ridiculous. Over a 54% win rate into Darius, Jax, Renekton, Riven, and Garen, who are some of the most contested top laners in solo queue. Your perma ban when picking Quinn should be Malphite, as his armor stacking and attack speed slow makes snowballing off him a lot more difficult. Your core build should consist of a Profane Hydra Rush into the Collector 2nd and Edge of Night 3rd, while Electrocute is the most optimal Keystone rune. So despite the nerf to Volibear this patch, we still think he will remain the king of the jungle. Volley's passive attack speed AP ratio has been reduced from giving him 4% attack speed per 100 AP to now 3% attack speed per 100 AP. Volley's passive can stack 5 times, so in total you're losing 5% attack speed at max stacks if you have 100 AP, which is only a loss of 125 gold worth of stats. And it's not like Volley builds a ton of AP either, as Cosmic Drive is his only AP item, and it only provides 70 AP, so it's actually less than 125 gold loss in stats. So it's really not looking like a big deal at all, and considering how powerful Volibear has been in recent patches, his relative power will remain very high. It's the fact that Volibear can get so tanky while still outputting so much consistent DPS in fights, while being relatively easy to execute as well, that makes him so great for the average player. With Cosmic Drive into Flicker Blades, you get a significant amount of offensive output, and from then on, you transition into tank. The only thing that can really shut Volibear down in fights is reliable CC, so banning out Lulu or Melio is good value right now, as they are two of the most played supports in meta. For Volley's rune page, you should be taking Lethal Tempo as the keystone rune, and then picking up Inspiration for secondaries. An off-meta jungle pick who has surged in power over the past 2 patches and in the top 3 for 25.18 is Morgana. So Morgana is a great pick for jungle, mid, and support right now, but she's finding the most success as a jungler. W damage was buffed 2 times recently, so the clear speed of Morgana jungle has become really fast. If done optimally, you can full clear in under 3 minutes and 10 seconds, and we have this updated clear on our website for you guys. Executing ganks with Morgana can be a little more difficult because her Q is a skill shot, so you kind of want to approach things as to how you would with Lee Sin. If possible, getting right up close to the enemy and then using Q will be the best way for you to ensure it hits. You never want to max range throw Q when ganking unless there's no way you can walk up close to the enemy. Level 6 is where your ganks become more reliable, because if you can get in behind the enemy, then you can lead with your R, and once your R route hits, then you can follow with a guaranteed Q. The core build for Morgana jungle consists of a Blackfire Torch rush into Leandri's 2nd and Zanya's 3rd, while Dark Harvest is going to be the keystone rune. Since Morgana doesn't have the best dueling threat early on, strong dueling junglers like Kha'Zix can give you some issues, so banning him out is a good idea. Another very underrated jungler right now who has been finding a ton of success as of recent is Jax. So Jax is actually way better as a jungler than he is as a top laner right now, and here's why. With who we are seeing played at high rates in the jungle, Jax can play very well into most of them. Xin Zhao play rate has gone up a ton due to his update, and Jax has been loving that matchup. Jax is one of the few junglers who has actually had a positive win rate in the Volibear matchup. Sylas is another that Jax is winning against, and it's really hard for Sylas to be the aggressor in the matchup and dive in as he wants. Jax E just hard counters so many of the highly contested junglers in meta, so he's a great addition to your champion pool for 25.18. The only matchups that are more difficult for Jax aren't really being played much at all right now, as Rammus has a sub 2% play rate. The build that you will be taking on Jax jungle consists of a Trinity Force rush into Sundered Sky 2nd, and then Lethal Tempo should be your keystone rune. On the rise as of last patch, and joining the top 3 for mid lane in 25.18 is going to be Xerath. So if you're a fan of the artillery mages, then they are back in pretty good spots right now due to those Horizon focus buffs from 25.17. Xerath is ever so slightly better than Vel'Koz right now, but if you are someone who enjoys Vel'Koz mid, then he's also worth considering right now. So with those Horizon buffs, we saw the item gain about 1% win rate as Xerath's second item, and is now performing at a better rate than Shadow Flame. The reveal passive from Horizon Focus is incredibly valuable to have on a poke champ like Xerath, because a lot of the time you'll be able to spam your poke on enemies when they're out of vision if you are fighting around objectives, and if you get that reveal on them, following up with additional damage from your R can be so massive. Shadow Flame will deal slightly more raw damage, but when you consider Horizon as 450 gold cheaper and also provides you with the reveal passive, it's proving to be a great trade-off right now, with Horizon Focus holding the better win rate. Matchup-wise for Xerath, he's going to play very well into most mid to shorter range mages like Orianna, Victor, Malzahar, Annie, and Veigar. It's more so going to be mids with high mobility and burst that you're going to feel the pressure against, so banning out LeBlanc or Fizz is good value. Your core build should consist of Eluden's Rush into Horizon Focus 2nd and Rabadon's 3rd. First Strike and Comet are both viable keystone options for Xerath. First Strike will be the most optimal when up against a melee mid, while Comet works best into other ranged matchups. A mid lane champ who's incredibly underrated right now that we want to bring light to is Twitch. Twitch mid has been really good for a while now, as his AP builds got buffed back in 25.11, and he's been great ever since. Twitch is one of the best solo queue mids because of his ability to shove waves in super fast, and then look for roam opportunities or skirmishes with his jungler. The early game kill threat of Twitch mid is highly underrated as well, and we can see this in action from the full game commentary that our challenger mid laner Shori has uploaded to our website, so let's have a listen in.
So I'm gonna be trying to slap him a bit here. Oh, that's funny. A gold card. I think he's dead here. It's very close. Press the attack, might kill him with the bleed. Yep, there we go. It's absurd how much damage Twitch does. Like, you can beat most champions just up front.
So just the fact that the enemy mid laner you're playing against will have likely never laned against Twitch in his life will give you a massive edge up early in lane. That Twisted Fate that Shori was able to solo kill had no clue that Twitch would just kill him like that, so you will be able to find yourself getting similar solo kills in lane due to the enemy's unfamiliarity with the matchup. For your core build on Twitch, it's going to consist of a Nashor's Tooth Rush into Rabadon's second, and then Press the Attack is the best keystone rune. For matchups with Twitch mid, champions with dashes who can easily avoid being hit by your W are who you will struggle more against, so banning out Katarina is a good idea. And then rounding out the top 3 for mid in 25.18 is going to be a mainstay on the solo carry list, being Diana. Especially with Qiyana now nerfed for this patch, Diana will take back her spot as the undisputed best assassin mid for solo queue. For a melee assassin, there just aren't a lot of ways for enemies to exploit Diana early on in lane. In a ranged matchup, you have your Q to help CS from afar and your W to absorb poke, so it helps you to easily survive until the level 3 to where you can be really aggressive. If your Q lands with Diana, then her follow-up burst damage is incredible, and few champs can match it, so that's kind of the name of the game early on with the champ. Fish for Qs when the enemy goes for last hits, and when one eventually lands, you can really punish the enemy. When you get to your level 6, you want to try and make plays together with your jungler, as the single target burst of Diana on her own is amazing, but if you've got your jungler there as well, it's just a guaranteed kill. One champ worth banning when picking Diana is Galio, as his point-and-click CC makes it hard for Diana to be the initiator. The build revolves around a Storm Surge or Rocket Belt Rush, and then Electrocute will be the keystone rune. You can swap around your secondary runes with Diana, as Resolve will be best in melee lanes, while Sorcery will be optimal against ranged. An ADC who has gained a bunch of strength over the past patch, and joining the top 3 is Senna. So Senna ADC saw around a 2% spike in win rate from her 25.17 buffs, and is back in a really great spot. Senna is such a rewarding ADC to play, because if you can farm well and collect your souls at a good rate, then her scaling power is off the charts. Senna is a very versatile ADC, as you can pair her up with melee supports or enchanters and perform regardless of who your support locks in. Senna is not tied down to being played with Tahm Kench at all, as her highest win rate support duos over the past patch have been Melio, Morgana, Nami, and Braum. Melio-Senna duo was literally up over 55% this patch, so it's a really strong synergy that you can play for 25.18. Since Senna does lack a gap closer and is pretty squishy, playing into a support like Pyke, who has really strong catch power, is not ideal, so he's a good ban to consider. The optimal build for Senna ADC is going to consist of a Static Shiv Rush into Black Cleaver second and Fire Cannon third, and then Fleet Footwork is the best keystone rune. An ADC who has a lot of strength right now that not a lot of players are taking full advantage of is Vayne. So Vayne's mid to late game power just got so much better last patch due to the experimental Hexplate buffs. You slot the item in third on Vayne, and she becomes this durable range DPS shredder. You literally get 20% movement speed for 8 seconds when using R in a fight because of the Hexplate passive, so Vayne's kiting power is just completely insane. If you can reach 3 items and have an enchanter by your side, then there is almost no way for you to die in a fight unless you completely run it down. Early lane is really the only more vulnerable spot for Vayne, so using your ban on Ashe, who's very strong in the early game and who is getting buffed for this patch, is a good idea. And then to round out the top 3 for ADC in 25.18, it's going to be Sivir. Sivir has been and continues to be the most reliable blind pick ADC for solo queue. Since Sivir has such incredible shoving power due to the AoE damage from Q and W, she's able to acquire the push in most matchups and dictate the pace of the lane. If you want the enemy shoved in under tower, then you can do that, and if you want to set a freeze on your side of the lane, then you can look to do that as well, which is a really nice luxury to have. If you're paired up with a ranged support, then hemming the enemy under tower and poking them when they try to last hit is going to work really well. With a melee engaged support, keeping the wave on your side of the lane is going to be more beneficial because melee supports can't really do anything at all if the enemy is under their tower. The best build to run on Sivir revolves around a Yuntal Rush into Infinity Edge second and Flicker Blades third, while Lethal Tempo is the keystone rune. Banning out a meta dive champ is always good value when picking Sivir, so Kha'Zix or Zed are 2 good options right now. Buffed for 25.18, and one of the best carry supports that you can play is Vel'Koz. So Vel'Koz has benefited from changes for 2 patches in a row, as the Horizon Focus buffs from 25.17 were great for him, and now his E and R have been buffed for this patch. Most Vel'Koz players are not taking advantage of Horizon Focus though, as the majority continue to rush Ludens, but Horizon Focus players are winning over 2% more. With Vel'Koz support, it's the level 6 where you can really begin to threaten with the champ. Poking early on in lane can be a bit difficult due to the enemy just needing to sit behind minions, but when you get level 6, if one Q lands, then the follow-up burst potential from your full combo is massive. Everything with Vel'Koz plays off of that Q landing, as it sets you up for a near guaranteed E because the enemy will be slowed and dodging your E becomes almost impossible for them. Unless the enemy jumps right on top of you, you never want to be leading with your E. Q should always be used first to try and proc the slow, and then E follows after. The best item upgrade for Vel'Koz is Realm Spike, and then Horizon Focus is the Rush. After Horizon Focus, you have a few options, as Liandry's is great if the enemy team is stacking health, while Storm Surge works amazing into squishies. Hook champs are going to be who you want to try and avoid when picking Vel'Koz, so either Pyke or Blitz are 2 good bans bands to consider. Melio avoids nerfs for 25.18, so he is back in the top 3 once again. For how easy Melio is to play, he's such a no-brainer support to have in your champion pool right now due to his current power level. Anyone can pick up Melio and find success relatively quickly, as his abilities are very simple to use. The only more difficult part about Melio is deciding when to actually use your R in fights. Keeping tabs on who your most powerful carries are is pretty important in this sense, because you don't want to be wasting your R if your 0-10 Yasuo gets caught out. If your ADC is completely useless but your top laner is popping off, then don't be afraid to just leave your ADC in fights and play more towards your fed top laner, as wasting all your spells on an ADC who's not going to deal any DPS is definitely not optimal. If you can identify who your carry is in the game and play around them, then Melio brings a lot to the table and can be so consistently impactful. The 3 main items that you will want to prioritize in Melio are Echoes of Helia, Moonstone, and Ardent Censer. Depending on the enemy comp, you can swap around the order in which you purchase the items. Into a more aggro bursty bot lane duo, then rushing Echoes of Helia is good value, but if you're up against a less bursty duo, going for Ardent Censer Rush is really good. And then for Melio's rune page, it's going to be Aerie as the keystone rune, combined with Resolve for secondaries. Much like Vel'Koz, Melio is going to have a more difficult time surviving against hook champs, so Blitzcrank is a good band to consider. And then another enchanter support who's incredibly powerful right now to round out the top 3 is Nami. Nami and Melio have been OP for a while now, as their win rates and play rates have remained extremely elevated. Nami's early to mid-game power is top tier, and for an enchanter support, she actually has the ability to start fights on her own, which gives you a lot more agency over how games play out. With other enchanters like Soraka, Janna, and Lulu, you don't have a reliable way to initiate a fight on your own, but with Nami R, she has the ability to punish enemies for mispositioning. Nami R is just such a versatile spell because you can use it to engage or disengage, whereas with Janna and Lulu's R, they can only be used as disengage tools. So you just have more ways to impact games with Nami, as you can be the one to make plays and not have to rely on your teammates to start fights. Imperial Mandate Spike is so big for Nami, and it's the only item that you need to purchase on the champ. After Mandate, pretty much any other support item can be viable to pick up depending on what you think is best for the state of the game. Your item upgrade is something you should consider swapping around depending on who your ADC is playing. Solstice Slay is very underrated on Nami, as it provides you with a heal and a movement speed boost. So if your ADC is playing someone who lacks a gap closer like Aphelios, Jinx, Sivir, or Jhin, then opting for Solstice Slay instead of Dreammaker is great to help your ADC make space and survive better in fights. Any melee engaged support is going to be a bit more annoying to lane into, as you're always in risk of getting burst out if you get engaged on, so using your ban on a meta melee engaged support like Thresh or Nautilus is good value. Alright guys, one last thing, our rank up guarantee is insane. It's like signing up for the gym and getting a refund if you don't get ripped. That's how confident we are in SkillCapped. We obsess over making the best guides with top players, rigorous testing, and top tier video editing to make your climb easy. If you're ready to level up, visit SkillCapped.com and see the difference. So there you have it everyone, that's a complete look at 3 of the best solo carries for every role as we head into 25.18. Thank you all so much for watching, we'll see you in the next one.